So several years ago, I found myself in the city of Dubrovnik, Croatia, one of the most beautiful cities on earth. And I was performing there for about 6 months. And when I'm away from home or touring for a long period of time, or if I'm in the same place, what I like to do is find something steady or something that I can repeat every day. It just kind of makes me feel at home somehow. So when I was in Dubrovnik, I would go to the same cafe every day and order the exact same sandwich for lunch. And it just was my favorite sandwich. A really interesting take on the Caprese sandwich. So that's what I'm going to make for you today. I wanted to show you my special recipe. I've spent years honing this thing, and I think I finally got it right. So I want to share it with you. So let's make a sandwich. Okay, so here is everything you're going to need from an ingredient point of view. We've got fresh basil over here. We've got a stick of softened butter. We've got fresh, beautiful Roma tomatoes, and I'll tell you why we use those in just a second. We've got a wonderful store here in Rochester, New York called Wegmans, which everybody loves, and they have a wonderful bakery, and this is Wegmans Tuscan bread. So I would recommend, if you don't have Wegmans near you, some kind of Italian or Tuscan bread works really nicely for this, sliced about a ½ an inch thick. We've also got fresh mozzarella, and this is everything you're going to need to put together the perfect panini sandwich.
Prepping the tomatoes.
Okay, let's prep our tomatoes. Now, the reason I went with Roma tomatoes, and this was after an exhaustive search, was because I like the shape and they're easy to cut the way that I want to cut them. Now, there's a special tip to this. I like to cut the tomato in half. Now, some of you know that when you're trying to make like a hot sandwich or you're trying to make anything with a fresh tomato, a lot of times what you end up with is a lot of water in there. So what I've done over time is I figured out that if I took a melon ball or an ice cream scoop, I could scoop out the inside of the tomato like this, and you'd get all that moisture out of there so that you could then kind of do more of a julienne cut of the tomato. So, and you can get 2 sandwiches out of 1 Roma tomato, and they just look so beautiful like that, and they're not so wet. There's not so much moisture, and it's not going to make your sandwich soggy. Okay, so there are our tomatoes. Now basil, and this is non-negotiable. It has to be fresh basil. It has to be a really nice handful of fresh basil. You want to get some nice big leaves. Get, I would say, probably a good size handful. Okay, and you want to put them in a little pile in your hand, like that. Now, the best way that I've found to do this is to roll it up in what they call a chiffonade. I learned that from the cooking channel. Really nice and tight. And you want to do small cuts, just like that. Okay? Come across, get it just like that. Now, there's more than one way to do this. The way that I actually like to do this sometimes, depending on how much basil flavor you like, is this is going to mix right with a mayonnaise mixture. And you can do that 2 ways, but I'll tell you that in a second.
Fresh mozzarella.
Fresh mozzarella, also non-negotiable, has to be fresh mozzarella. You're going to need about, for 2 sandwiches, you'll probably need about a half of one of those logs of fresh mozzarella. 3 pieces per sandwich is usually going to fit it perfectly. Sliced to about 1/4 to a ½ an inch. That'll be perfect.
Basil mayo.
So a lot of restaurants will make their own mayonnaise or aioli. I'm going to stop short of making my own here, and I just have some store-bought mayonnaise here, my favorite brand. And I'm going to just mix the basil directly in with the mayonnaise. Now, there's two ways that I do this sometimes. One is to just chop it very fine like we did that and pour it right in there, being very careful not to cut yourself. And just mixing it up fairly aggressively so that you can kind of bruise that basil a little bit so it gets a little bit more of that flavor in the mayonnaise. Now, if you're like a basil freak like I am, another way that you can do this is with a hand immersion blender and really almost just turn it into like this kind of bright green aioli that is just full of basil flavor. So that's really just depending on your taste. But this, like this, is also absolutely fabulous.
Building the sandwich.
Now, one of the reasons that I love to use mayonnaise, other than the fact that I absolutely love mayonnaise, is that when you're making some kind of a melt or a hot sandwich, a panini, when you put mayonnaise on the inside of the bread, it kind of creates a moisture barrier so that the bread does not get soggy, because oil and water do not mix. So you get a nice moisture barrier there. Put a little bit on each side. Oh, this looks so good. I'm hungry now. Just like that. Okay, 3 pieces of cheese. 1, 2, 3. Let's get our tomatoes. Just like this. Beautiful. A couple more. There we go. Just like that. Now what I like to do right now is take some fresh ground pepper, just like that, to taste. Some fresh ground sea salt, which I think really does a nice job there. We're going to close up the sandwich, just like that. Beautiful. Then we're going to take some of that softened butter that we had, go on right on the outside. Not a lot, you don't want it to be greasy, but enough, because butter's awesome. Flip it over. Hit the other side. And if you really want to like take this up to like really raise the game, you can throw a little garlic powder on there, which will kind of give the bread more of a garlic bread vibe. All right, let's put it on our panini maker and let's make a awesome sandwich.
Grill time.
Okay, our temperature light has come on. This thing is, you want to make sure that this thing is screaming hot before you put it on there, because you want to get that really nice sear browning on the outside of it, okay? It's smoking, that's good. Get this right on here. Hear a little bit of a sizzle. I am waiting. Lord, I'm waiting. Oh, I'm waiting. She's done. Oh, look at this thing. Let's put this right on the cutting board here and cut this beautiful sandwich. Okay. Close this out. Oh, this looks beautiful. Really, really nice and crusty on the outside. All that cheese is melted. It just looks perfect. Let's put this on a plate. Oh. And if we want to make it fancy, hold back a little bit of basil and just sprinkle a little bit of basil on top. And there is, in my opinion, the end-all be-all caprese sandwich. This is a deceptively simple sandwich, and you might be tempted when you're making it to want to put other things on it. You can make variations on this sandwich, but for this one, I would highly recommend that you just leave it with these simple ingredients. I found over the years that it's muddied it a bit when I tried to add other ingredients that I love, like onions or peppers or something like that. I find that it just stands so beautifully with just these ingredients. Thank you all for indulging me in my little wish to have a cooking segment. Always wanted to do this. This recipe, if you like what you've seen here, will be available on my website a little bit later on after the show tonight. So let's try this thing. Oh, this looks so good. Come on, stop it. That is so good. It's amazing. It brings back all these great memories. Thank you for watching.